Just ahead on American Black Journal, a new survey of Detroit residents reveals how they feel about their neighborhoods and life in the city. Plus, some up-and-coming small business owners learn how to take their companies to the next level. Don't go away. American Black Journal starts now.
Masco Corporation is proud to manufacture innovative and environmentally friendly products for the home. Delta faucets, craft-made in Merillat cabinets, and Behr brand paints have all been designed with you in mind. Masco and its family of companies, serving Michigan communities since 1929.
Support also provided by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, a partner with communities where children come first. The Cynthia and Etzel Ford Fund for Journalism at Detroit Public TV.
The DTE Foundation proudly supports 50 years of American Black Journal in covering African American history, culture, and politics. The DTE Foundation and American Black Journal, partners in presenting African American perspectives about our communities and in our world.
Also brought to you by Ally, Nissan Foundation, and viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to American Black Journal. I'm Stephen Henderson. A new survey by the nonprofit Arise Detroit is shedding some light on what Detroiters think about the city's comeback and whether it's having an impact in their very own neighborhoods. Here are some highlights. 43% of the respondents felt their neighborhoods improved over the past 2 years, primarily due to an increase in homeowners and businesses. On the flip side, 18% said their neighborhoods have declined, mainly because of crime and blight. 56% have concerns about gentrification in their neighborhoods, and 88% feel hopeful about the future of their neighborhoods and about the city of Detroit. Joining me now is the man behind the survey, Luther Keith. He is the executive director of Arise Detroit, and with him is Ronald Matten, who is the CEO of Demographic Inspirations Detroit, a nonprofit that specializes in neighborhood revitalization projects. Welcome, both of you, to American Black Journal.
Thanks for having me. Yeah. Great to be here.
So, Luther, our viewers are probably most familiar with you through the Neighborhoods Day that Arise Detroit does each year, this massive effort to clean up the city. This is a really interesting sort of companion to that, right?
Yes.
How do people feel about this?
Yes, it is, Steve. We did this in connection with our Neighborhood Summit, which we had a couple of weeks ago, which is a whole day of programs and workshops to teach people how to improve their neighborhoods. But we thought that it was a good time to kind of take the temperature of the people in the neighborhoods. And we put together a survey drawing from our network of more than 400 churches, block clubs, community groups, and asked them what they thought about what's happening in the neighborhoods. And we had over 100 responses. So while it's not a strictly scientific survey, we think it's reflective of how people feel to a great degree. So we're comfortable with the results and the fact that the results kind of like are all over the place, the good, the bad, and the ugly, which tells me that the people were taking a real critical look and were aware of what's happening around the city.
Yeah, so anything here surprised you? 43% of people in the city say their neighborhoods have gotten better in the last 2 years. That's actually a lot.
I think that's extremely significant, but people, and there has been a lot doing it. And we asked also, have you seen investment in your neighborhood or other neighborhoods? And, been a lot of talk around the dynamic of investment in Detroit neighborhoods. I really think that we've seen a lot of that in the last year, some driven by dissatisfaction in the community to a great degree. And that was interesting that we're observing that. At the same time, people feel that a lot of this investment, they don't feel like the powers that be are necessarily getting the message. We asked another question, which you didn't show in your opener, but about do you feel like the message of inclusiveness in terms of opportunity has been embraced by the powers that be, foundations, corporations, elected officials? And surprisingly, 70% said no.
Said no.
So that was an amazing thing. So I think in some way there's a disconnect there, and there has to be some education process of making the community understand that there's a connection there. But clearly people feel good about some things, but as you also indicated, there are concerns about still crime, poverty, lack of economic inclusiveness. So there's still issues to be worked on for sure.
Yeah, I think if you spend any time with people in their neighborhoods, you hear all of those things.
Right.
It's really a pretty rich spectrum. Ronald, talk about what goes into a survey like this of people all across the city.
Well, the survey was great. It expounded on a lot of matters that happen in our neighborhoods. As our organization and getting in contact with Luther King, we've been doing this for like 4 or 5 years, and it's given us a great opportunity to be able to do more in our neighborhoods. So on the particular day of Neighborhoods Day, we've had volunteers that have come out to help us to make sure that we get some of our projects done. So what that does for that specific target area that we are in is that it establishes a better aesthetic neighborhood than what was there before. So when you talk about the increase, that's a lot about what the increase is. But what I think that probably some of the things that should happen is that our elected officials should be more involved with what goes on the inclusion of what we need to do to continue to bring our neighborhoods up.
What have you seen? You say you've been doing this for a number of years. What have you seen in terms of change over time in the way that people feel about their neighborhoods and about the city? Is that getting better? Is it staying the same? Is it getting worse?
I think it's getting better. It depends on the neighborhood, and it takes a while for some people to catch on and see what's going on, and also to put the information out there too, to invite them to the opportunities to be able to be a part of what we do.
The gentrification issue twins with this idea of inclusion, right?
Correct.
People feel like there are changes taking place in their neighborhood, and they feel locked out of those changes.
Right, and then sometimes you feel like people getting people to understand what gentrification is. It's not just people investing. It's invested with negative consequences for somebody. I personally feel that, there's room for everybody. This is a big city. There's room for everybody. But it's how you come in. And clearly, if you look at some of the market rates and some of the housing and rental rates, you're seeing impact there. At the same time, I think we just had a recent announcement about projects where they're trying to make affordable housing, build that into projects where people are looking for help from the city. But again, I think there's concern. Change is always concerning. And again, people want to feel like the change is including them as part of it. And again, I think that's a message that still needs to be communicated by the powers that be, by developers. So this city is for everybody, but everybody wants to feel like that the change, that we aren't leaving people behind as we make the change.
You won't get pushed out.
Correct.
Is that something you're seeing in neighborhoods too?
We're seeing that, but we're also looking at a different projection and how to bring together the neighborhood in itself. There's a community, what they call community land trust, which is inclusive with the neighborhood itself to bring about affordable housing. So that's a large part of our conversations right now.
Let's talk a little more about community land trust. I'm not sure everybody knows what that is. It's a really innovative way to make sure that people who are living in a community now are kind of deeded into the ownership of that community.
Well, as far as I know, I'm still, in researching and talking to some people about it. It's about the community coming together to determine what goes on in the neighborhood. So what happens in the neighborhood stays in the neighborhood pretty much. So
one of the other significant things about this, Steve, is that this survey drew from people who are very actively involved. And in fact, that 85% of people said they're involved in positive activities. 77% said they're involved in block clubs, churches, or youth programs. And one of the things I think Ron is reflective of that is these are people who want to get involved, want to make change. They don't want to just call talk shows and complain. These are engaged people, which I think gives them a legitimacy about people who are not just talking the talk, they're walking the walk. And that's why I think is another unique factor of this particular survey.
So if you're Mayor Duggan or if you're a member of City Council, you see this survey data, what do you think they ought to take from it?
Well, I think number one, I think that there's some things to be hopeful about. And again, I don't do politics, but I do Detroit. But I think clearly things have happened in a positive way in some of those neighborhoods. I think the mayor himself has acknowledged that the revitalization only reached 50% of the neighborhoods. So there's lots of work to be done. We still have serious concerns about crime, poverty, and the other thing is the schools. People feel the schools, and Nikolai Viti is making some progress there with some of the test scores, I guess, and there's some positive things going on there. But there clearly, any comeback has to be built on our performance of our schools. So it's all connected. And there's a lot of work to be done. There's no time to jump up and rest on our laurels. If anything, we should double down on what we are doing that's working and address the problems. And so a year from now, we can come back and say we've made some significant progress moving this city forward.
Ronald, what would you say
Well,
mayor and council ought to be thinking?
I would say even from the mayor's office to the city council is streamline pathways for organizations to be able to remove the barriers that we've been dealing with in the past.
Yeah.
And when those barriers are removed, it gives you a better opportunity to be able to create more in your neighborhood.
It's still really hard to do the things you want to do in your neighborhood sometimes.
Right. As far as I'm concerned, it's common sense.
Yeah.
So I don't know what keeps it from happening.
But I think it's important to note that this is not their problem, it's our problem. So everybody has a role to play. The elected officials and city administration, the foundation of the Black community, which is doing a lot of great work, and the people in these churches and all these bodies. It's gonna have to be a team effort to get it all done. Nobody can do it all by themselves.
Yeah. Okay. Well, congratulations on the work. It's really interesting, and thanks for coming by.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Up next, a training program for small businesses that are looking to grow. But first, here's a 1989 Detroit Black Journal conversation about the historic Detroit neighborhood known as Black Bottom.
I was born on Sherman Street. That's south of Gratiot. And we lived on 2 or 3 different streets in that area. Clinton over by the old Calvary Baptist Church. And then the family moved up north of Gratiot to Napoleon Street. And I had a brother that was born on High Street, which is now Verna Highway.
Now, you also told me that you had some relatives who were business owners in the area.
My father was one of 6 brothers and 3 sisters. And when the boys came here, and the boys, I mean my uncles and my father, in 1917, they proceeded to get into, after getting jobs at Ford's, they proceeded to get into businesses. And they had a shoe shine stand down at old Interurban Station at Jefferson and Bates. And one of my uncles had a 2 barbecue establishments, one up at Farnsworth and St. Antoine.
Serve You Barbecue?
Serve You Barbecue. And the other was over at Maple and St. Albans. And my Uncle Walter had a grocery store around on Maple.
Maybe
and
one of
Du
these
Bois.
milkmen visited
Could very
the
well
neighborhood.
be.
Do you remember those?
Yes, I do.
I
remember those
those.
milk wagons when they were pulled by horses, too.
I don't remember that.
So you're not admitting to that, huh?
I don't remember. I really don't remember that. But I remember my father having an ice truck. And among other things, when we calculate my parents' ages, in the 20s, my mother was 17 because she married at 16, and my father was 6 years old, would have made him 23. They owned a restaurant on Hastings.
Now, how did they learn at that young age?
I don't
to run a
know.
restaurant?
If you would have to know my father to appreciate it, and my mother encouraged him in it. She was the little cook at 17.
And you told me the meals were $1?
The meals were $1, and their business only lasted a year, and it folded because my mother states that there was a greasy spoon down the street that sold meals for 75 cents. They weren't so clean, so they were undercut. And my aunt took, she was a ticket seller at the Arcadia Theater on Hastings. So we had movie houses all down the street, didn't we?
Yes,
So a
there
lot
were
to
at
do.
least, there was 7 or 8 theaters on Hastings, between Gratiot and Medbury.
Okay.
And they were all on the same side of the street, the east
Just a
side of the
strip,
street.
a strip of theaters. Now, all of this sprung out of necessity, did it not, Mrs. Williams, in terms of the large numbers of blacks that moved into the area during that time period?
Right, and basically it came from the reality, as I was speaking a little bit earlier, that most of the institutions and other types of services were segregated at that time, and so it really forced blacks to develop a sense of self-reliance and really begin to build upon the resources that were in the black community.
For the past 11 years, the U.S. Small Business Administration has offered a 7-month training program for small business owners. The Emerging Leaders Initiative provides classroom instruction, networking, and strategic planning. Here to tell us more is Constance Logan. She's the director of the SBA's Michigan District Office, along with one of this year's Emerging Leaders, Pamela Mack, who is co-founder of Bricks for Kids Detroit, and Lane Coleman, who's founder of Strike Group LLC, and a graduate of the first SBA class in 2008. Welcome all of you to American Black Journal.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's start with talking about this program.
Yeah, so the Emerging Leaders Program is really an intensive program that's designed to accelerate the growth of high potential small business owners in underserved communities. So it's a 7-month program. We call it a mini MBA program.
All right.
And so we provide the classroom instruction. It's over a 7-month period. Those businesses have to be in business for at least 3 years, revenues $250,000, and be able to make a serious time commitment to this program.
Right. So what kind of things do they learn when they're in this 7-month
They
program?
learn growth strategies. They learn about financing. And the main thing, the takeaway is they develop a growth action plan, a 3-year growth action plan with benchmarks to tell them once they graduate, how do they scale? Here is a roadmap to scale that business.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of the real challenges if you own a business is knowing when and how to grow it. And that's especially true for minority businesses, of course, who have other challenges that are with them all the time. But how should businesses think about growth? It's always something that's sort of out there, but not everybody knows when or how to do it.
That's right. It is a challenge. And the SBA, we're very proud of what we do. Emerging Leaders is only one program that we do, but I know we're going to talk about that here. And so once the individuals get into that program, they realize that they're not the only ones that are kind of stuck, if you will. And they get to collaborate with their CEO partners and talk about the challenges that they have and really understand that where they are is really not that unique.
Yeah.
And this program gives them a great opportunity to learn and really take that information and grow their business and take it to the next level.
Yeah. So Pamela, tell me about Bricks for Kids and how your participation in this program has helped you.
So Bricks for Kids is a part of a global franchise. We are the Metro Detroit franchise owners, and I co-partner with an educator, and we're committed to delivering STEM to Metro Detroit students using Lego bricks. And so when I joined the program, we were about 4.5 years old as a business. And it was a matter of every day when you get up, like, okay, what's next? What do you do? And this Emerging Leaders Program was the perfect answer to that because what it, as Constance indicated, it provides a roadmap really for what do you do with your financials? How are you addressing marketing? How are you addressing HR issues? And so lots of work, but a great program to sort of put a framework and position us for the next 3 years.
So talk about what the future then looks like for your business now.
Oh, so the future is really bright for us. We have great clients that we're building, and the program really helped us think about new and emerging markets. So STEM is one of those fields that barriers to entry, STEM education, there are not a lot of barriers to entry, so we're always having to pay attention to, are we delivering excellent service, and are we delivering the product that's actually going to make the difference for creating the next generation of STEM professionals. And so, yeah, I think we're very well positioned to do that.
Yeah. Tell me about your business.
Stephen, Strike Group is what we refer to as we're government and defense contractors, primarily focused in the federal space and the military. And we're in 3 areas of expertise, what I refer to as sustainment logistics, distribution, and warehousing services.
And talk about your participation in Emerging Leaders and how it's helped.
Well, if I recall, we were one of your first classes.
We were the very first class.
The very first class.
And what was interesting about my experience, my background, I'm a retired naval officer, and then I worked 10 years in the sales and marketing arena. So I was very clear on marketing and leadership, and then I knew sales and marketing. I understood that very well. The one that really helped me out, because I'm an engineer by education, was the financial module. And I can give you a great story. I remember the first time we applied for a loan, the bank, they gave us some money, but they didn't give me what I thought we should have received. And so one of the pieces in that module that stuck out to me was understanding your ratios in your business when we started dissecting the financial statements. So then what I did, once I learned that, I went back and I started looking at our business. So we decided, you know, all business is not good business. Right. So we eliminated some of those accounts that we had. And then we compared our company to a company that's very similar in our business, but $1 billion company.
Okay.
And what I found out, our ratios now were better than that company. So when we went back to the bank, we got the funding that we requested. So it was very valuable.
Yeah.
That's just one example.
Yeah. I'm curious how both of you got started with the idea of your own business. Like, at what point did you say, I'm done working for everyone else and I'm going to work for myself?
So mine started, so I'm an attorney by training. So I operated as in-house counsel for some large companies for several years and had a little boy. And who had this fascination with Lego bricks.
Legos.
Just
I
love.
had that same fascination when I was a kid.
So, just a very busy household, you know, 2 attorney households, extremely busy. And I kept thinking, like, you know, I love what I do, but I have a little boy who's waiting for me every day, last person in pickup, right? And so there was just this imbalance. And I thought, you know, it would be great if someone, didn't think it was me, would have a program based on Legos that kids could learn some things. Long story short, found out about this franchise, and it was just the perfect timing to say, okay, I'm going to take this leap, and I'm going to buy this franchise.
Yeah.
So it was a great balance. So I was able, that's how I left corporate America and, you know, practicing as a lawyer to do this. And it's been fantastic.
Yeah. What about you?
Well, for me, I think it was a little different. I like to say I was a little impatient with my environment. Retiring from the military and working in corporate America, there were some things I didn't like, and I frankly thought I could do a little bit better. So I've had several other companies that we've started. This one, it fixated and it focused on the government and the military. 95% of our team is former military. And the big thing for me was I was not happy with how corporate America treated the team. One of the things that they teach you in the military is, you know, the team comes first. I was reading an article the other night. One of the great generals said that, I think it was a leader, he said, oh, we just lost the general. He said, well, how about the troops, the tanks, and the rest of the people? He said, they're fine. He said, good, because I can get a new general in 5 minutes. So the point is, the team is so very important. And that's really what drives our business is we have a good team around us, and it helps us perform. So.
Yeah. I mean, you must be sitting here just beaming, hearing these stories from the two of them.
It's awesome. And what's more important, equally as important, is that when you look at the impact. So for Detroit, there was a survey done for Emerging Leaders Program from 2016 2018. 122 jobs have been created.
Wow.
Over 300 have been sustained. About 9.8 million in government contracting, and over 600,000 or so in loans. So we're being impactful and making a difference in the community, which makes me very proud.
Yeah. When he was talking about lending and banks, I mean, that's a big part of this, right? Helping people understand how to get capital, how to overcome the barriers to capital to grow your business. I mean, that's a huge thing for all businesses, but especially for minority businesses.
Absolutely, access to capital. And what this program really does is it teaches you, as Lane mentioned, how to be prepared. You know, what are the banks looking for? Because, I mean, you don't want to go in and get declined and not really understand why. So it teaches you to be more proactive. So when you go in, you know what the lenders are looking for. And you know, I mean, maybe you need more money. Or maybe you can collaborate, there's another source of revenue. It could be angel investors. So there's other forms of revenue. So access to capital and talent are the two challenges that businesses have.
So when you went back to the bank, you were able to get
exactly what
you needed.
Yes.
So what does the future look like now for your business?
Well, we're a global company. We operate in 3 different countries currently. One of the other things I would say about this program, though, is I graduated in 08, 09. I went to the graduation that you guys just had. I developed a relationship with a company that we're going to do some teaming, and we're meeting next week. So it's a great network,
which is
to really
another
build upon.
huge key for businesses, small businesses. All right. Well, congratulations on your businesses and on the program, and thanks for coming.
Thanks for
Thank you for having us.
That's our program for today. Go to AmericanBlackJournal.org for more information on our guests and to check out past episodes. And you can always connect with us on Facebook and on Twitter. We'll see you next time.
Masco Corporation is proud to manufacture innovative and environmentally friendly products for the home. Delta faucets, craft-made in Merillat cabinets, and Behr brand paints have all been designed with you in mind. Masco and its family of companies, serving Michigan communities since 1929.
Support also provided by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, a partner with communities where children come first. The Cynthia and Etzel Ford Fund for Journalism at Detroit Public TV.
The DTE Foundation proudly supports 50 years of American Black Journal in covering African American history, culture, and politics. The DTE Foundation and American Black Journal, partners in presenting African American perspectives about our communities and in our world.
Also brought to you by Ally, Nissan Foundation, and viewers like you. Thank you.